Throughout the year of 2020, there has undoubtedly been some heavy hitters that are worthy of the title Anime of the Year. Even this fall season is stacked with different shows battling out to be the best. But as far as I'm concerned, that title has already been claimed back in spring when summertime rendering started airing. Similar to last year with Odd Taxi, OLM seems to once again have struck gold with this anime adaptation. If you're a dedicated anime watcher, you've probably at least heard of this at some point, but for the more casual watchers, it wouldn't surprise me if you hadn't, because the mouse has been getting into anime and is keeping this locked up in the vault like one of their Disney princesses. The only way to watch it is to use a VPN to get around the region lock or sail the 7 seas. And it's entirely worth it because from beginning to end, this show is nothing short of straight bangers. There's not many shows that can give such a satisfying and complete story within 25 episodes without needing a second season to finish it or needing to watch multiple seasons before being able to enjoy and understand the current one. So for those who don't know, Summertime Rendering follows the story of Ajiro Shinpei as he returns home to his hometown for the funeral of a friend. It's then that we learn of the folklore rooted in this town's history of a god the islanders used to worship and something called the Shadow Sickness, which is the idea that if you see a copy of yourself, then you're destined to die. And surprise, surprise, Shinpei ends up dying.
Double kill.
But he loops back in time to the point where he just returns home. The rest of the story follows him as he tries to uncover the truth about the island's folklore and tries to save his friends' and family's lives. And you know what? The setting provides the perfect environment for this kind of show. Its secluded nature really feels like they're cut off from any help from the outside world. From the dense forest countryside to the maze of caves beneath the island, it really ups the horror element and reminds me a lot of Hinamizawa from Higurashi, which is also a show you should check out if you haven't already. But you know, this show has a lot going for it. The best thing being that both opposing sides are smart, and it doesn't even need to be some big gigabrain move. It's simple stuff, like, you know, if you plan on recording something for proof, then making sure your battery is charged and there's enough space to avoid cop-outs for lazy writing. Plus, the story is constantly in motion, so it feels like not a single scene is wasted. It feels like every moment throughout the show has meaning, even if you don't know it yet, including the fan service. I mean, do you really think he keeps looping to the point where he face plants on her chest or the exact moment before getting an upskirt from his stepsister on purpose? Well, I mean, of course, they all just used for fan service. However, those two scenes are also very important to give him information going forward. But seriously though, the way they have these loops building off of each other is just amazing. And the thing for me is, like, it fixes the biggest problem that always happens in anime with time loops like ReZero or Higurashi. The more you watch it, the more it feels like the stakes are lessened every time they die because, you know, they're just safe to loop again. But in Summertime Rendering, that safety net is taken away by limiting the amount of times he can loop before he can build his safety net back up. The shadows he's fighting are literally putting the fear of God in him by forcing him to take these fights to try and get a win before all of those deaths are permanent. There's never a moment where either group is dumbed down so the other can get an upper hand. It's always this back and forth chess match between the two. I mean, hell, there's plenty of moments where I would have just given up from the sheer amount of BS he was put through, because he keeps repeatedly dying in the worst possible ways imaginable, but somehow Shinpei finds a way to even the playing field. And because every single win is such a hard-fought victory, it makes it all the more satisfying and rewarding, or it makes it even more devastating when they just get outplayed. The battle between the two factions rightfully takes center stage, but there are surprisingly deeper themes at play as well. The concept of what makes a person is a constant question they have to ask themselves. If someone looks, acts, and has the memory of someone you know, are they still that person? Is that all it takes to make us who we are, or do we believe and rely on this idea that a soul is what makes us special and differentiates us from something that appears to be a copy? Even then, fighting shadows can be easy, but sometimes you might falter if that shadow is a childhood friend or a family member that just recently died. Can you get over that emotional connection? Many of us would give anything to have a chance to speak with our loved ones again, but do you have the resolve to let them go for a second time for the greater good and to protect the lives of others? Watching a number of characters we follow deal with this in one way or another really shows just how different the mentality is across the board, as everyone deals with their layers of grief and acceptance in various ways. Now, the only thing that I could maybe nitpick about this show is that the overall tone changes about halfway through. In the beginning, it's more mystery and horror focused, but the further it goes on about halfway through, it switches to more of an action thriller. And it makes sense though. By that time, all of the mysteries are solved and it's just a matter of dealing with it. But I can understand how it could be a bit jarring. If you're there strictly for the mystery horror elements, then your enjoyment might go down a little, and you might not be as invested in the story moving forward. Plus, like all things dealing with time travel, it can be a bit confusing near the end, so just pay attention really. But that shouldn't keep you from watching this show. There are a lot of anime that are great and become seasonal standouts, but there are also only a few that gain such widespread appeal to the point they go down as one of the best. And I don't want the fact that this show has been region locked to keep it from the attention it deserves. I would say Summertime Rendering is a perfect anime for newcomers to the medium or veterans that are familiar with the time loop trope and want a little more out of it. I know the word masterpiece gets thrown around a lot when it comes to someone's personal favorite anime, and I'm not going to use it for this, but I think this show is very close to that title. For me, it's a tier above most recent anime in the past couple of years. I mean, obviously I'm a bit biased since this type of anime is always going to be a hit with me, but even if you already have your anime of the year, if you haven't watched this, please give it a try. Just don't let the mouse find out.